under this bill. Fact check this, Madam Chair. People who make under $50,000 per year on average get a tax cut of $265. That means a person who makes over $1 million per year on average gets 310 times what a person making under $50,000 gets. Now, this notion that if we don't pass this one big, beautiful bill, that taxes are going to go up for everybody. This is a choice. Tax breaks for billionaires and millionaires is not tethered to our doing something for regular people. Y'all chose to do that. It's perfectly possible to draft tax legislation in a way that doesn't provide the most fortunate among us with a windfall. But y'all chose to do it. Now, in the Ways and Means markup, we stayed up all night, and I do empathize with you, Madam Chair, for having to stay up all night, because we stayed up all night. And I see some of my colleagues are still here, staying up all night again. We offered 33 amendments, 33, to keep the wealthiest from getting the benefit, most of the benefit, from this tax cut. So we suggested that, you know, there shouldn't be any tax cuts for individuals making over $400,000 a year. Republicans voted no. We suggested that, you know, if they make $10 million, we shouldn't give them a tax cut. Republicans voted no. We said, how about $100 million? Republicans voted no. We said $1 billion. They voted no. You know how they voted. No one was just too rich for this tax cut in the worldview of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle in the Ways and Means Committee. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, the JCT numbers show that this bill is even worse for people on the bottom rung. By 2029, according to JCT numbers, after the temporary tax cuts for people making under $30,000 per a year on an aggregate, they're gonna, as a group, they're gonna be paying $5 billion more in taxes. That's a big tax cut, Madam Chair. Fact check that. Now, imagine that, Madam Chair. There's so many ugly things in this bill, in this 1,000 pages of this big, beautiful bill. My 5 minutes could not possibly do them justice. Making it easier. I couldn't believe it when I saw this, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman. I couldn't believe it when they proposed to take away the taxes on silencers for guns. What, Madam Chair, why? There's a $200 tax on buying silencers for guns. And then we're going to kick 2 million children off the child tax credit. You know, they brag about doubling the child tax credit, but Madam Chair, the poorest, the neediest, the most vulnerable children get nothing, unless their parents earn money. You know, and what I say is that, why don't we just make the kids go to work? Just cut to the chase. Tell kids, y'all got to start working. Maybe cut some of them school hours and go work as the shampoo girl so that your mama can get money to do what we know did. We cut poverty in half when we expanded the child tax credit to include the poorest, the 17 million kids that this bill doesn't cover. So, at the end of the day, the main thing, let's keep the main thing, that this legislation before us will make Americans more in debt, will make them hungrier, will make them sicker, will make them more ignorant. They'll be falling behind other nations, will be upending national security, all to lavish more and more and more and more on the luckiest and wealthiest among this. And Madam Chair, I am so, and I just want to point out to y'all, full disclosure, I'm woke, and I yield back.
Well, Ms. Moore, I think that applause indicates performance, having been brought to the Rules Committee this morning. I do have a lot of fact checks, but as I've done a couple of times this morning, I am going to resist. But
I'm sure you will.
But I'm going to wind up entering some things into the record that were said about the TCJA when it was passed, to show that the same kinds of things are being said now, and they're wrong, and they're going to be proven wrong, just like the things said in 2017.
Madam Chair, can I just make an intervention? We're not talking about the 2017 tax cut and I wasn't here then. This is the bill that I have gone through, and what I have said, you can fact check what I said, and the people are going to be hungry and losing health care. Let's talk about this bill. I don't want to talk about that bill because I wasn't
let me
there.
talk about this bill.
Okay, talk about it, man.
Chairman Smith.
You the chair. You can do whatever you want.
Chairman Smith. Our friends on the other side of the aisle continue to assert that the extension of the 2017 tax cuts places an additional burden on our working class families and benefits only billionaires and special interests. However, isn't it true that President Trump's tax cuts increased American families' income and were a boon to the working class, and that the bottom 20% of earners saw their federal tax rate fall to its lowest level in 40 years, while the top 10% of earners now pay over 75% of all income taxes? And as a result of the Trump tax cuts, the 1% paid more income taxes than ever before. Can you check my facts?
Your facts are 100% accurate. I think it's important to note, Chair Fox, if you listen to the counterparts that you just heard, if you use their statements, it actually proves that our tax bill is cutting taxes for working class. My good friend from the Ways and Means Committee said that in 2029, $5 billion in tax increases on people because of the expiring provisions. In order to those to be increased, that means they had to be cut, and that's what we're doing here. We are cutting $5 billion for those tipped employees, those Uber drivers, those linemen who work overtime, and it's for 4 years. I hope it's much longer, but you know what? Don't say that it's increasing $5 billion, but you're not giving us credit for the $5 billion tax cut that we're doing right now. And I also want to point out, Chair Fox, back in 2017, in those Trump tax cuts, the 17 million children that Ms. Moore was talking about that are being left behind, yeah, they're going to be left behind by the Democrats when they vote no on this bill, because that would mean a refundability would go from $1,700 to $1,000. So every one of those 17 million children would lose $700 pulled out because the Democrats voted no.
So in effect, the shares of those who foot the tax burden got more progressive in the 2017 bill, and will get that way, and will be that way again with this bill. Correct?
That's correct.
And last, despite all of the rhetoric, and I have to tell you, it really qualifies as rhetoric. Again, performance, I think, is a better term for it. The Democrats could have raised the tax income bracket when they were in control and passed their reconciliation efforts, because the tax cut expiration was in the 10-year window. Isn't that correct?
It's absolutely correct.
And they failed to do so. Again, they have a credibility problem here. We hear all the time from Democrats about what we're doing, but never taking responsibility for what they could have done when they had the majority in House and Senate as recently as 6 months, and the presidency as recently as 6 months ago, correct? Excuse me, they didn't have the
6 months
majority
ago,
in the House.
they didn't have the
But
majority in the House.
3 years ago, excuse me, 2.5 years ago, they had that majority.
They absolutely had all three branches of government 2.5
Right,
years
they
ago.
had all three branches of government, and they could have done that then, but they did not.
We're listening here as the House rules.
C'est ça que nous dit qui a passé au niveau Chambre des députés. C'est un intense débat, un débat sérieux houleux entre deux partis, représentant deux partis au niveau de la Chambre des députés, sous question budget ça, eh bien, qui causait un pile problème. Démocrates voulaient prouver que parti républicain yo réellement wrong dans façon que yo voulait présenter budget ça avec taxe qui a coupé pour monde qui gagne pile l'argent yo pendant que yo prévoit un burden, une charge qui pral monter sous dossier là yo qui fait petit crascob environ $50,000 par année moun sa pral une quantité taxe pour payer. C'est comme ça débat licencié orienté au niveau la Chambre des députés. N'a veillé, n'a suivre pour chaque fois que séquence se paraît intéressante, nous va permettre de gagner un dossier avec surtout confrères et consoeurs qui direct dans congrès. Pour le moment, de nous comprendre, nous disons que présence nous est importante dans une série de lieux, dans un droit côté que information est cuite. Parce que les gens là où il y a nous chance nous joignons nous poter ba ou nous chercher dans là il y a nous poter ba ou mais si on va pas là ou caché faut nous gen monde qui pral chercher yo on va pas là fouiller côté information cachée pour nous capable poter le ba ou la caillou. Nous disons merci Red branché réseau pour la Sur Pstars.